Good evening, everybody. My name's Nam Kang, and this is my unit plan for LMU EVES 5252. For this class, I focused on my Unit 3, which is Age of Classical Empires. Now, if you teach AP World History or World History, you would know that classical empires are what's known as the Golden Ages. These are empires such as Han China, Gupta India, Persia, Greece, and Rome that achieved cultural and technological achievements that influenced the world that came after them. I teach AP World History, so relatively my lessons are content heavy with uses of numerous writing activities and assignments and class discussions to push my students to think critically and become aware of their metacognitive skills. On my homepage, I focus a lot on the demographics, the accommodations, central focus of my unit, and the evidence of learning. As you guys can see on the central focus of the unit, I attempt to show kids how to analyze the similarities and differences of these empires regarding the governmental development, scientific achievements, religious development, and cultural development. I also push my students to take learning beyond the classroom. They're asked to analyze these achievements and how these achievements are still seen in the world today, just to make it relevant for them so that the teachings of history become more important for my students. I have several things I'm very proud about regarding my unit. First is my research paper. On day one of my unit, I introduced the theme and the focus of Unit 3 and also give out the Age of Empire project. On the Age of Empire projects, I have students get into groups of 5 and they divide themselves into five different responsibilities that are the 5 empires that I mentioned previously. Essentially, they're forming an expert group and they'll work with other people in other groups that are doing their empire to share information and do the research together. They'll be researching things such as timeline, the culture, gender structure, government structure, historical achievements. I outlined the rubric right here about how they'll be graded, and it breaks down the dates. I will actually dedicate a day for students to go into the library to gather information. They'll also learn about APA citation. As we know, social studies deal mainly with APA format. When we move into days such as day 3, I teach students how to write a research paper, which is on this worksheet that I hand out. And I make them see that the research paper is very similar to that of the DBQ, using outside information and sources to write their essay, and they have to support their thesis using sources and citations. And I believe it's day 4 and 5, and my students learn how to go into the library and gather information there. Now, I also focus on primary and secondary source in my Unit 2, and I bring that back up here on Unit 3 as I make reminders for my students how to gather information and also having them or helping them realize what's a primary source and what's a secondary source, as they'll be reading through books, encyclopedias, websites to gather information. Also, things I'm very proud about is my content regarding this lesson. When we look at day 12 and 13, we focus a lot on Greek philosophy and like Plato and Aristotle, and we have a Socratic seminar at the end of the day to really compare and contrast Plato and Aristotle's view on humanity. We all know that Plato is more of an idealist, as Aristotle is a realist. And on my PowerPoint, for each day of the content days, I provide pictures and we go through information that they will need to understand these empires, and we include a lot of videos in that video upon the lesson so that they can really visually and visually see what we're supposed to be learning about. I also every day provide things such as class notes where they all have tablets, so they'll download this from my website. And then they will answer these questions as we go along the notes. Now, I rarely do fill in the blanks or guided notes. I do class notes such as this, so they take what I teach them, comprehend it, analyze it, and then form the answers to the according questions. I believe this is really effective for students so that they're not just regurgitating information that they learn, but they're answering these questions based on what they've learned and forming their own idea about what is the geography and their influence on Greece. What is the governmental structure of Athens? Why was Macedonia so easily able to conquer Greece? Lastly, things I'm really excited about is my Unit 2 exam. Every unit exam I focus on different type of questions. For Unit 3, I focus heavily on negative questions, and I teach strategy about how to change negative into a positive question so that my students can understand how to translate these questions. And as we can see on my Unit 2 DPQ, or Unit 3, I named that wrong. I focus heavily on pictures and helping my students, with guiding questions on the bottom, and they'll be expected to write agree or disagree whether these empires are classical empires or not. So that is the overview of my unit. I'm really excited to get this unit on the way, and thank you.